Greetings in Christ, everybody, and welcome to Meet the Catechism. I am Steve Greene, Director of Holy Family Institute of Catholic Faith and Life. Today we're talking about paragraph 2215, paragraph 2215 in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This paragraph is under the fourth commandment. The fourth commandment, of course, in the 10 Commandments is honor your father and your mother. All right, so we want to talk about honoring our father and mother and making some specific points about it, drawing from paragraph 2215. So I'm going to begin reading I'm going to read about halfway through, and then I want to stop and just draw out a couple of points. And then the paragraph 2215 actually ends with a quotation from the book of Sirach in the Old Testament, from Sirach chapter 7. So I'll stop at the midway point, have a couple things to say about the introductory portion of the paragraph, and then I want to take a look at what Sirach chapter 7 tells us. Okay, so here we go, paragraph 2215. Respect for parents, in parentheses, filial piety, derives from gratitude toward those who, by the gift of life, their love and their work, have brought their children into the world and enabled them to grow in stature, wisdom, and grace. Okay, so filial piety, respect for parents, derives from gratitude to our parents. There are a lot of interesting tributaries that flow into this river of the fourth commandment of respect for parents, honoring your parents. The Catechism is going to go on to talk about a responsibility of children to care for their parents in their old age. It's also going to talk about the reality that the fourth commandment does not exempt us from obeying the commandment if we disagree with our parents, if we think that our parents are in error, if our parents failed us, even in significant ways, if our parents were not the kind of parents that they ought to have been, or that we would have wished that they would be. And so one of the first things to say about paragraph 2215 is to emphasize the word gratitude. Now it's interesting because for a lot of us, when we think of our parents, the word gratitude might not be the first word that comes to mind. I think this is particularly pertinent in our current cultural context. As we know, following on the sexual revolution, a theme that we'll talk a lot about in these Meet the Catechism videos, a theme that we talk a lot about at Holy Family Institute of Catholic Faith and Life in general. As we all know, following on the sexual revolution, there has been a historically unprecedented breakdown in marriage and family life. This is a tragedy. It is a tragedy that has caused, if the word incalculable means anything, it refers to this, the incalculable damage that has been done in the wake of the sexual revolution and the breakdown of marriage and family life. Untold millions of people have been raised without the safety and security and the nurturing environment of an intact home, of intact marriage between their biological parents. I am not here to even begin to try to suss out blame, to try to nuance who's responsible, etc. Those are conversations that obviously would pertain to individual families, individual situations. And the cultural broad strokes of how this came about is something that I'll deal with in other Meet the Catechism videos, something that I'll also take up in the Catholicism and Culture video series, which you can find here on our YouTube channel as well, or at our website, holyfamilyinstitute.com. But where paragraph 2215 is concerned, when the Church exhorts us to honor our father and mother, regardless of how well they did as parents, and exhorts us to gratitude, again, regardless of how well our parents did as parents, the Church is reminding us of a reality that historical circumstances in one era or another, this particular cultural context or that, pertains over every generation of the human family down through the ages, and that is the need for children to forgive their parents. Now, notice that works both ways as well. There will certainly be plenty for parents to forgive their children for as well. But speaking specifically about the fourth commandment, and here in paragraph 22:15, this exhortation to honor them, to be grateful to our parents, is a reminder that we are required to forgive our parents. Written deeply into this commandment is the exhortation that will be made explicit in the Lord's Prayer. We fast forward to the New Testament. Jesus teaching the apostles how to pray includes this stunning and ought to be very sobering clause that we ask God to forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. God, Jesus is God. He knows everything. When he gives us that prayer, he's the same God who gave Moses the law, who gave us the 10 commandments, who gave us the fourth commandment to honor our father and mother. And God knows that our parents are not perfect, just like God knows that we aren't perfect. And for those of us who are parents, God knows that we, in our turn, will not be perfect parents to the children he's entrusted to us. And yet he gives this commandment to honor our parents. And the Catechism reminds us that that has to be born of both a respect for our parents and gratitude to them for the gift of life. Now, ideally, the other characteristics of our parents' relationship with us that the Catechism mentions. So it says the gift of life, their love, their work. They've brought their children into the world. They've enabled them to grow in stature, wisdom, and grace. So ideally, that was all active and present in our upbringing. Our parents loved us. They nurtured us. They taught us. They disciplined us. They affirmed us. They educated us. They catechized us. Ideally, that was all true. Even if it wasn't, we have to forgive our parents as we would wish to be forgiven for our own failures, our own shortcomings, both as the children of our parents and also as parents to the children that God has entrusted to us. Okay, so there's this generational overlap. Goodness knows there are some things that I've had to forgive my parents for, and of course, make no mistake about it, that works both ways. There are absolutely things that my parents have had to forgive me for, things that I did growing up. And then my children will, without question, have to forgive me for my failings as a father, for my failings as a parent, and I'll have to forgive them for some of the things that they've done as well. So there's this deep dynamic of mercy and forgiveness woven into the very fabric of family life, of the parent-child relationship, generation over generation. But we have to bear in mind how much we owe them, how grateful we ought to be to our parents. And this leads us then to the second half of paragraph 22:15, and this beautiful quotation from Sirach chapter 7, verses 27 and 28. So back to paragraph 22:15, quoting the book of Sirach now. With all your heart, honor your father, and do not forget the birth pangs of your mother. Remember that through your parents you were born. What can you give back to them that equals their gift to you? That, brothers and sisters, is a question well worth considering. The reality that what our parents gave to us, even if it was only life, even if they abandoned us, even if they neglected us, God forbid, even if they abused us, if all they gave us was life, that means that they have given us the most fundamental gift. We exist. We were born. And that is a gift that we cannot even in principle pay back to our parents. We can only pay it forward. And so this demands gratitude of us and underwrites that fourth commandment. So there's a beautiful observation from Sirach. Remember that through your parents you were born. What can you give back to them that equals their gift to you? And a couple points I would like to make about paragraph 22:15, both parts of it, but kind of specifically anchoring it in this verse from Sirach chapter 7. especially in our culture where abortion is legal and rampant all over the Western world. I think there's a special call to gratitude toward our parents. Many of us, and again, this would go into all of our individual stories, but many of us were conceived in less than ideal circumstances, or were conceived in a situation where our parents were really struggling, where they weren't sure whether they could carry the burden of a child, of a baby. And yet here we are. I think of that goofy little smiley face bumper sticker you see on cars, driving around town. Smile, your mom chose life. It's a goofy little slogan. It's obviously, a pro-life bumper sticker that's meant to just kind of make a little point with a smiley face and a quick little slogan. But there's a profound reality behind that bumper sticker. Smile, your mom chose life. You're here, you're seeing this bumper sticker because the woman that gave birth to you chose to give birth to you. And as we know, often in very difficult circumstances, and more to the point, in a culture which offers her an out, allegedly, which offers her a legal mechanism to do away with this responsibility, this burden, this stressful situation, this, in many cases, unplanned pregnancy. And yet here we are, right? Ronald Reagan once made the point, I've noticed that everybody who supports abortion has already been born. We have seen in our time the rise of intentionally childless couples. I'm not talking about couples who struggle with infertility. That's a cross, of course, that many couples have to bear. I'm talking about couples who have decided intentionally that they will be childless, that their marriage will simply be about them and that they're not going to bring children into the world. There are a variety of reasons that someone can make that decision. And without, again, knowing case by case, I wouldn't presume to be able to calculate someone's culpability for making that decision. But I do want to note something, and this, again, is one of the tributaries that flows into the fourth commandment that's kind of lurking in this paragraph 22:15. There is a certain failure of the fourth commandment, a certain violation of the fourth commandment in someone who accepts willingly the great gift of life, a gift they cannot pay back, but can only pay forward, who then subsequently refuses to pay it forward. There's, speaking into that word, which is actually italicized in the Catechism, gratitude, it's emphasized, it's in italics. Whether it's intentional or not, there is a rather astonishing lack of gratitude to one's ancestry to say, from the modern cultural context, thank you, everybody, for all of your sacrifice. Thank you for the generous gift of life that you gave to your children and your children to their children and their children's children to their children, etc. Thank you, everybody. Through all my distant ancestry, including people I will never meet or even know the names of, that was all for me. And that ends here. There's just something, I think, very, very twisted about that, very backward about that. And again, just something to think about and to discern, especially if you're a young person and considering marriage. Bear in mind that you owe a debt of gratitude to those who sacrificed to make it possible for you to be here, even in your remote and ancient ancestry, and be willing to pay that forward because you cannot pay it back. So paragraph 22:15, quoting Sirach chapter 7, really good stuff. A lot to think about and pray about. Thanks for watching Meet the Catechism. Appreciate it. If you would like, please subscribe and like the video. That, of course, helps us out on our YouTube channel. You can go to holyfamilyinstitute.com for our other video series and blogs and all that kind of good stuff. And just, yeah, thanks for watching. Feel free to share, of course. And remember, the church has what the world needs. So learn your faith, live your faith, and share your faith.